Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now October 2nd of 2023, and as you all know, Disney has had a very rough year throughout all of 2023, not just because of the Disney stocks hitting a major low, but also related to merchandise struggles for major brands out there, for example, like Star Wars. And let's not forget about just yesterday was the final day, or even the day before that, of the Galactic Star Cruiser Hotel and how that shut down over at Galaxy's Edge. And let's not forget about the endless box office failures. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing that a lot of fans have been very aware about has a lot to do with Snow White, the live-action remake. We all know it, you all know it, that this movie is going to be an ironic release. It could very well end Disney as far as live-action remakes go, and the reason why it's so ironic is that Disney started with movies back in 1937. It could very well end, or at least sharply decline, in 2024, and I think it really is going to become a very big deal for them. It's going to drag along with themselves for the years to come if it ends up being that bad. And judging by the test screening for Snow White, it really seems like it's just going to be that bad. So let's get into all of the specifics and the details surrounding Snow White 24, and exactly why this is literally a woke mess. I mean, we know that this movie is not going to perform well, given the fact that Greta Gerwig is the main writer of this film. We cannot forget about that. And director Mark Webb fully supports Disney's motives with this movie. So, moving onwards, with Snow White 24 going through much damage control right now behind the scenes, one major development has to do with a test screening for Snow White that involved a recent cut for the film that completely failed. Now, specifically, one sequence involves actress Gal Gadot's evil queen giving a speech, as it turns out, to her huntsman about how she successfully took down the patriarchy through her manipulative techniques with Snow White's father, who is codenamed now King White. It's a scene that got the worst criticism of all time from screeners, and that it was reportedly so bad that it is considered to be a deal breaker for the film that may lead to audience members walking out of the theaters once the film drops. This is a scene that was written by Greta Gerwig, the writer of the Barbie movie, mind you, where this is different from the scene in which the evil queen makes another speech about this in a similar fashion in Act 2. Now, the context is that she makes this speech to her huntsman before she sends them off to take Snow White and to find, of course, her and her location. Now, let me just say one thing about this. This just goes to show you about Greta Gerwig's nature. Now, we all know that the Barbie movie dropped that pretty much, all the time. More times than you can count, about patriarchy this, patriarchy that. The Barbie movie just did not shut up saying that. The same exact thing is going to happen here in a similar fashion, maybe not quite as severe as the Barbie film, but it is going to do it like one or two times in the current cut at least for Snow White. And again, we can see that this scene basically consists of the evil queen really, kind of getting full of herself, kind of getting very much, egotistically driven about taking down Snow White's father's kingdom and taking it over behind the scenes and stuff like that, and doing what she wants to do and making this speech about taking down the patriarchy and how she accomplished that. I think that this is going to be something that will absolutely make people walk out. For anybody that even takes the challenge to see this thing, I think that they're going to wake up in Act 1 and realize what this movie really is all about at the end of the day. So, there's more to this that we have to discuss in just a second because it gets worse. Now, we already know that Disney is trying to re-edit this thing endlessly. They are in a constant re-edit phase right now by rearranging scenes, cutting scenes out, shaving down the running time. They did something similar with the Marvels, where this is now going to be the shortest Marvel movie out there, and there's a reason behind that. The test screening, really did not go quite as well as they wanted to, so they had to cut out a lot of footage, cut down a lot of breeze scenes specifically. Same exact thing is happening here, just on a more severe level. Now, moving to the next thing, this is where it gets even, I feel at least, a whole lot more cringe. And we know that there's a lot more segments in this movie that's going to be very much like Gal Gadot's scene, as well as the upcoming Rachel Zegler segment. So, this is where I think it's very offensive to the original creator of Snow White. Let's discuss. Another sequence that completely underperformed during the screening involves a sequence in which Zegler's Snow White acknowledges her thoughts out loud to the 7 magical creatures when she first meets them. Snow White even delivers a line of dialogue stating how she thought they were all men in the fairy tales, and that her father told her. As it turns out, writer Greta Gerwig does an offensive twist in this story where Snow White's father, in the beginning of the film off camera, reads her the tales of the 7 dwarfs that are connected to the source material, but only through legend. The reality is that when Snow White meets the 7 dwarfs, aka the magical creatures, and what they really look like is completely different. Different, of course, genders, different ethnicities and heights, all these different aspects. The scene focuses on the creatures appearing stumbled, and they ask her why she thought they were all going to be male. Snow White brushes it off and states it's just something that she heard in the old legends that her father told her. These scenes were so badly delivered that Disney is unsure of what to do with these segments right now during their re-edit phase. So here's the deal breaker again. This takes place, by the way, in Act 2, where she first meets the 7 dwarfs right at the beginning of the second act. And I think that this is really offensive. I think that the son of the original creator of Snow White was right. I mean, he was able to really point that out. I believe he spoke about this with Forbes, where he was just disgusted about Disney's direction of Snow White and how they're treating the dwarfs and how they're treating the source material by ditching it and throwing it into the wayside. And whatever source material that they do use is that they are going to be deeply, pretty much, changing and adjusting it to fit their vision of this new movie. So this just goes to show you that this movie is not just a woke mess. It is also going to be a movie about sending a message, trying to destroy the source material, destroy the original Snow White 1937. And look, guys, that's what this is all about. I love to defend pop culture. That's what I stand for, and this is why I care about it. I think at the end of the day, it ranges from multiple subjects. We have seen what Disney has done to Star Wars. We have seen what they are currently doing to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And now they're doing it to these iconic tales that not only were created back in, for example, Snow White back in 37, but even before that as a German tale, So it really is disrespectful to everyone across the board. So at the end of the day, I think that this definitely will be the worst movie that Disney will ever have put out in theaters. And I think it's really going to stick with them for the years to come. So anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. And I will catch you guys later.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.